My guest today is Roger Ver. I have personally followed his work for many years and have watched him contribute endlessly and tirelessly in the pursuit of better money for the world. He was the first to fund startups in Bitcoin, and he has donated more of his personal time and money to the cause than anyone I know. So first of all, thank you for what you have done for Bitcoin.
Thank you for such a nice intro, Colin.
You're welcome. There's more to come here. Some people claim that you changed when Bitcoin Cash came around. I would argue that you have remained exactly the same since day one, pushing for fast and cheap payments globally. It wasn't you that changed, it was Bitcoin that changed. On that note, I personally predict that we're going to see the highest fees we have ever seen for Bitcoin BTC in this upcoming bull run. In December of 2017, we saw a peak of $55 per transaction fee. I believe this time around, it is fair to say we will easily see $200 transaction fees, and it would not surprise me to see $1,000 transaction fees, resulting in a lot of economic activity being pushed off onto other chains, such as Bitcoin Cash and others. Welcome, Roger Ver, and thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Colin. That very nice intro. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So first of all, you're in St. Kitts right now. You said you're basically unable to leave the island.
Yeah, not basically unable, definitely unable. They're not allowing any passenger flights or boats in and out of the country. So I'm here for the indefinite future. But it's a nice place. I like it.
Yeah, at least you picked a nice home. You're on a tropical island like myself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're an hour flight when there are flights apart from each other.
When there are flights, yeah. Although I think the weather's better in St. Kitts than in Puerto Rico. So there's less landmass here, so it doesn't get as hot during the daytime. The ocean keeps everything relatively cool because you're always right by the coast.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it can get very hot, very humid here, like deathly.
Yeah. Welcome to St. Kitts. Not so hot, not so humid, but still very nice.
Yeah. Do you spend much of the time of the year in St. Kitts?
So far this year, I've spent more time here than anywhere else. I usually spend a decent amount of time here each year, but I wasn't expecting to be here for basically 2 months nonstop at this point. So that's
wow.
Longer than I expected.
And then you go to Japan, right? That's where you live otherwise?
Yeah, I flew in from Japan to here and then was planning to stay for maybe 3 weeks. And here I am 2 months later, coming up on 3 months pretty quick here, I think.
Yeah, I think we're all going a little crazy with the coronavirus lockdown stuff going on here. So actually, I remember watching videos of you a long time ago, and you had talked about why you actually renounced your citizenship from USA, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So I did that in 2014 was the last time I was American. February 4th, 2014 was one of the happiest days of my entire life was the day I stopped being American. And that's one of the things I'm the most proud about in my life, to be honest. So it really feels kind of invigorating to say that, but also sad because like America used to be this economic bastion of freedom in the world and this shining beacon on a hill. And now it's kind of the opposite that it's one of these, crazy totalitarian places where the government's controlling everything and spying on everybody and people seem to be cheering for it. And it's just really sad to see that have happened.
It really is. As my eyes have been more and more opened to the atrocities that the government commits, I realized that by funding them with tax dollars, which I have no say over, I'm actually contributing to those atrocities. And so I see why it could be really like a smart idea to leave just on a doing what's right basis. Yeah.
It's doing what's right, and then it's economically helpful too. It's 2 for 1 there. So it's you don't have to fund the war machine and it's good for you financially as well. And maybe I can give a shout out to one of my favorite Twitter and Instagram accounts is Sal the Agorist. I don't know if you've ever seen that guy's Twitter account, but he had one the other night that really rung home with me. And I guess there was a big school shooting recently. And then he was talking about, remember one of the most horrible school shootings ever. It's we need to take guns away from these horrible school shooters. And then it was like #remember Kent State. And for people that aren't old enough to remember or didn't study history in their government schools, like Kent State was a time where the U.S. government literally shot up a bunch of college kids on a college campus there because they were protesting against the war. So that was one of the worst school shootings ever in American history, was when the government went on the school with guns and shot students for protesting against the war. Oh, wow.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's called Kent State. And I think it happened during the Vietnam War. So it's been a while. But there's pictures with they literally, mowed down college kids for having protested against the Vietnam War. The U.S. government shot them with guns, shot them dead.
Wow. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that your US dollars are, or your tax dollars are funding, is that kind of thing. Yeah, it's pretty sick. And so I moved to Puerto Rico. I didn't quite make the big jump that you made all the way to St. Kitts, and I didn't expatriate, but I took a medium jump, and I get 0% taxes on my capital gains for all trades, and that was a big thing being a crypto advocate. And so, yeah, I see the value in it big time.
Yeah, and I wish everybody in Puerto Rico good luck. And I've been following, a bunch of people have moved there. But I'm really worried that they're just going to pull the rug right out from under you guys. And you think, oh, you thought you were going to have some benefits by being in Puerto Rico? Well, we're the government. We can change the rules at any time and make them retroactive as well. So I hope they don't do that to you. But, these are the same sort of people that go and shoot college kids on college campuses for protesting against the war. I don't trust them one bit.
Yeah, no, I understand. You're kind of right in that suspicion. I have a decree, right, with the government that says I get this tax benefit. But actually, just recently, they didn't change the decree because that's a legal contract, but they went around it and they said, you know what, we're going to raise the filing fee. And so they just basically broke the original agreement right there. Not happy with that. A lot of people are not happy with that. So my next step will be expatriating to St. Kitts,
And you can pay for your entire citizenship process in Bitcoin Cash or any cryptocurrency you want down here. So if you want to do that, email me at roger@bitcoin.com and I can help anybody out with that. I'm
awesome. I'm looking forward to that. That's probably in my future. I'm just going to use this as my stopping ground to greater future freedom. So I guess you kind of answered the question of how you're doing on this lockdown. You're kind of not going anywhere.
Yeah, but luckily the views are beautiful and the weather's great, and it's really I really enjoy St. Kitts a lot. And there's quite a few cryptocurrency people down here, and in fact, I think we're going to have some big cryptocurrency announcements about businesses accepting Bitcoin Cash for payments here in St. Kitts shortly.
Oh wow, that'd be great. You could close loop the system that way.
I'm excited about it. I think Bitcoin Cash acceptance and then Purse.io to save everything off on money on everything you buy from Amazon. And that's such a good combination there.
It is. And Purse.io was recently saved from closing, right?
Yeah, there's everybody came out of the woodwork and says we love Purse, don't go. And so Purse definitely isn't going anywhere.
That's great. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about fees here. I told you my predictions. I think it's going to be over. I say $200, and I think that's a little bit actually conservative. I say that so I don't blow people away, but I think that it could easily exceed $1,000. And let's just pull up the chart of the last bull run peak right here. And so as I've covered in my previous videos, we hit a high of $55 average transaction fee for Bitcoin in December of 2017. What do you think we're going to see in this upcoming bull run?
You said $200, you thought? So
at a minimum, and I could easily see 1,000.
So I think there's a little more data that we should talk about here in addition. So the average fee was $55, right? So if you took all the transactions at that time and took all the fees and then divided that number into the other, you came up with $55. But it's worth pointing out, so in the history of Bitcoin, and almost all of them happened right around that same time, there were 28,796 transactions in which the fees were more than $1,000 for a single Bitcoin transaction, right? Let me see that number again. 28,796 times somebody paid more than $1,000 for fees on the Bitcoin network. And I'm one of those people that paid multiple times more than $1,000. And I was sounding the alarm bell as loud as I could. Hey, this is not usable for business. Businesses are not going to pay $1,000 to move their money. And all those people that were actually trying to use Bitcoin in commerce moved to other chains, right? They moved to Ethereum, they moved to Litecoin, they moved to Bitcoin Cash later on once it existed. And then a bunch of these Bitcoin maximalist type that never actually used Bitcoin, their only thing was to say, he's lying. He never paid that much. Of course I've paid that much, right?
Yeah, people call you a liar, like you paid too high of a fee.
Yeah, they claimed, well, he just doesn't know how to calculate the fee. And so then I went and backed it out, and I made a whole YouTube video about this a couple of years ago where I showed exactly what the network conditions were at the time, and then the size of my transaction and number of bytes, and the fee I paid was right in line with what I should have paid. And I guess a lot of these people, they don't realize that most businesses, if they're doing it right, are going to be using a multi-signature wallet. So I don't have to worry about one employee either getting hacked or running away with all the money. So if someone's going to steal, it takes multiple people to steal. So if you're using a multi-signature wallet, the transaction in terms of number of bytes is going to be even bigger. And almost every business is using a multi-signature wallet to keep track of the funds there too. So I literally paid more than $1,000 in fees on Bitcoin, more times than I can count. And you can see the data there over on another block explorer called Blockshare, more than 28,000 times people paid more than that. And if you look at the times they paid more than $100, I think it's like over 300,000 times. In fact, I'll pull it up right now. It was more than 300,000 times they paid more than $100 for a single transaction. It was 323,813 times people paid more than $100 to make a single Bitcoin transaction. So to answer your question, where's the Bitcoin average transaction fee going to be? I don't think it's going to hit $200 the next time. I think it'll maybe be around the same as last time because the average fee is $55. Almost nobody's going to pay that. The only time they're going to pay that is to send their Bitcoins to an exchange to buy some other cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin Cash or Tether or Ethereum or take your pick. People get pissed off when they have to pay $55 in fees, and that's more than your bank wire, and it's potentially longer too. We were talking about it before. The average confirmation time during that period became more than 2 weeks. So not only were some people paying $55, but they were having to wait 2 weeks for their transaction to get included in the next block. That's a disaster by any standard for anybody. I can't understand what universe these people are living in that say that that's a good thing and they can't wait for the fees to go higher.
I think you could transfer gold faster from a vault to your house than a 2-week Bitcoin transfer.
Yeah, and maybe cheaper than some of the fees that people are paying for some of those transactions.
Right. That's crazy. I know I didn't actually touch upon that other huge aspect of it. I just covered the fact that the fees were astronomical, but it wasn't just the fees. It was also the time. It was ridiculous. Like, how could you send cryptocurrency, the future of the internet of money, and it takes 2 weeks to get there? That's ridiculous. That's slower than an envelope in the mail.
And for inside the United States, like I'm sure, like you probably wouldn't tell FedEx what's in the box, but you could ship a kilogram of gold anywhere in the country overnight for less than $55. It's going to cost you like $35 or so.
Wow.
And so you can literally ship gold with FedEx cheaper than you could ship Bitcoin at the height of the 2017 bubble.
So well done, Bitcoin core developers, for making Bitcoin less efficient than physical gold.
And not to harp on too much stuff again too, but I think what a lot of the people that are new to crypto don't understand, it was the thing that really caused me to start ringing the alarm bell, is that the Bitcoin core developers, they openly say that they want the fees to be high. Mm-hmm. And when people like me complain that the fees are high, then they switch and say, well, no, the fees are low today. You only have to pay 10 cents today. And I want to tell them, well, which is it? Do you want the fees to be high and high fees are a good thing? Or do you want the fees to be low and low fees are a good thing? And it's like this Schrodinger, cat version of what the fee should be on Bitcoin. When it's convenient for them to say the fee should be high, they say that. When it's convenient for them to say the fee should be low, they say that. And it's this incredible double standard that's incredibly frustrating too. And that's why I'm glad I hardly use BTC, Bitcoin in commerce anymore. I'm busy using Bitcoin Cash and building on that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that it's ridiculous the path it's taken. And like I said at the beginning, it's not you that's changed. I recognize this. It's Bitcoin that changed. If anything deserved a new ticker symbol, it would have been Bitcoin BTC, in my opinion, as a somewhat early adopter, 2013. I think there's a lot of latecomers that don't get what happened. They don't understand the history behind it all. And as I've seen you share, and I share sometimes too, is John Block's history of the censorship and all the reasons that backed up what happened and why it did. But yeah, it's Bitcoin that changed.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, and I guess the censorship prevented new people from being able to see that, and like the history of Bitcoins being deleted too. They deleted the main thread about launching the Silk Road, which was the main impetus that drove Bitcoin into the world and is the reason I heard about Bitcoin. They deleted that from bitcointalk.org. And that's like, to me, that just feels like such a sad piece of history being erased. So.
Absolutely. It's ironic that I'm really starting to get a feel for how censorship is a totalitarian control tool. And it was used back when Bitcoin enforced this 1 megabyte cap, even though the number of blocks being mined to increase the block size was like 90%. It was like over the top, and they pushed away this whole movement. And, we're seeing that again right now with the whole COVID-19 and YouTube videos. I got this picture right here. This guy, he did a video, how YouTube's just taking down his videos left and right. London Reels videos are getting taken down left and right. And it's very selective, and it's just about who wants to control the speech. And it's not the people anymore that have the freedom of speech. And it's really, really sad that that tool is so effective.
Yeah, and it's just terrifying how effective it is, though, too. That was the thing that I really underestimated, just how effective the censorship was going to be within Bitcoin when a bunch of anonymous moderators managed to take over our Bitcoin and then kicked out all the community moderators that people knew and liked and had been around the space for a long time, and replaced them with anonymous people. And then they just went on this massive censorship campaign. And I watched right before my very eyes the entire ethos of Bitcoin change. And a lot of people, if they haven't been around, they won't realize it. The big blockers and the people who wanted Bitcoin to scale to be money for the world, they were the majority in terms of number of users, and they were the majority in terms of hash rate. And the small blockers were unwilling to compromise in any way whatsoever, and managed to basically, through a path of censorship, divert the project into something else. The very title of the Bitcoin white paper, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. If you're not trying to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, I don't think it's fair for you to use the Bitcoin name. Yet some of these people have the audacity to say Bitcoin Cash is a scam because it has Bitcoin in the name.
I know, it's the funniest thing.
What everyone's calling Bitcoin today isn't even trying to be the thing in the very title of the white paper. If anybody's getting scammed, it's the people buying Bitcoin thinking that they're getting the Bitcoin described in the white paper. It has basically nothing to do with it at this point. And in fact, the guy that runs Bitcoin.org, was literally saying on GitHub recently that they should, rewrite the white paper and put in a whole new white paper. And it's just, it's maddening. So
it is, yeah. If you're going to rewrite the white paper, you might want to change the name of the crypto you're dealing with. Right.
Yeah.
Agree completely. Well, what do you think? Were you going to say something there?
I was going to add a little bit more to the censorship, though, too.
Sure.
So, when you look at the ways governments around the world love to control the press, and for people that don't know, like Google Project Mockingbird, right? Like this came out a couple of decades ago. The U.S. government had been intentionally trying to get CIA agents in all the major media sources in the U.S. so they could shape and mold and influence public opinion. And I think that got started in like the 1950s or something. And so if they've been doing it since then, just about normal media, normal news, don't think for a second that they wouldn't be looking to influence cryptocurrencies, because cryptocurrency can have a huge impact on the way all of society works. And I know firsthand, because I saw it with my very own eyes, social media manipulation was already in place and ready to be turned on at this flip of a switch in June of 2011.
Wow.
And so for those, most people weren't in Bitcoin at that point, but I was day in and day out. I'd already been involved, maybe 5 months at that point. And that was the first time there was everybody remembers the bubble when Bitcoin hit $20,000, or most people remember, because it was, kind of worldwide attention at that point. But in 2011, there was a similar, what felt like, a huge bubble that everybody was so excited about. And the course of 2 weeks, Bitcoin went from around $2 to $30, right? So more than a 10x increase in just a couple of weeks. And everybody that was already in Bitcoin was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Bitcoin went from $2 to $30. And everybody was excited and wanted to talk about it within the community. But at that time, the main discussion platform wasn't Reddit. It was this website called BitcoinTalk.org. And when Bitcoin was getting some media attention from around the world and people were interested in it, the forums got flooded with a bunch of posts from new accounts that nobody knew, that were just saying fluff, like buy, sell, oh no, look at this. And just non-fluff comments that had zero substance whatsoever. And there were so many of those fluff comments that flooded the forum that the forum became unusable for all of us that actually wanted to discuss Bitcoin at that time. So I even saw in June of 2011, they effectively turned off people's ability to be able to discuss Bitcoin at one of the times in which people most wanted to be able to discuss Bitcoin. So the social media manipulation, whether it's coming from the deep state or wherever it's coming from, has been going on since at least June 2011. And we know that at the end of 2010, the CIA specifically contacted the developers on Bitcoin and said, hey, we are interested in this. Can you come and meet with us and explain this to us? So the fact that the CIA was already looking at it in 2010 means that by 2011, of course, they were ready with their social media manipulation. Then when you look at the way Bitcoin has been diverted from peer-to-peer cash to the world, it's supposed to be a digital gold commodity, just like the IRS ruled and wanted. how does that disrupt the powers that be? How does that disenfranchise the government's ability from being able to control people? Like, it doesn't really do much of anything to make the world a better place. Whereas if you have peer-to-peer electronic cash for the world, that benefits the entire world, but at the detriment of government control. So I think you're naive to think that they haven't been trying to subvert peer-to-peer cash being brought to the world.
It doesn't surprise me, but I did not know it went back that early. They really caught on pretty quick, didn't they?
Yeah, well, I guess, governments are good at controlling the populace, because if they really figured out that all government is it takes a bunch of money from the people, that keeps a bunch of it for themselves and for their friends, and then gives part, and they take that money really quietly in the form of income taxes and inflation, and then they keep a bunch of it for themselves, and then they give it back really loudly, and they have big celebrations and ribbon cutting ceremonies, and look at how we're giving you back 10 cents on the dollar of the money that we took for you. Or Social Security, they make this big look, we're giving you all this money. Don't look at the money we've taken from you for the last 40 years, but look, we're sending you a check for $1,000 a month. And so that's what governments do. And they have to keep the people, under control. And the best way they can do that is through, controlling the media. And if everybody says, oh, Social Security is wonderful, don't ever possibly do the math for yourself and see that if you probably put the money under your mattress and collect 0% interest, you'd still probably come out ahead on there. And there's lots of great videos on YouTube with people doing the math. But that's why they have this big giant propaganda machine out there. And if Social Security was such a great deal, they could just make it voluntary. They wouldn't have to force people into it. But they force people into it, and then they help, pacify people to not complain about it too much with all this social media, propaganda funded by the taxes that they're taking from you too.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, but it's unfortunate that Bitcoin, as defined in the white paper, it is a big threat to the banks and to the establishment, and that's its design. So it's not a surprise.
The biggest threat ever, right? Ever.
Yeah.
Like, what could have been bigger?
Yeah, money rules the world. Money is like half of every transaction. It's the grease that greases society's wheels. And so, yeah, I could see why it could be a threat. But Bitcoin Cash at least keeps the vision going of the white paper, whereas, yeah, like they haven't killed it yet. It's still going. They're going to have to try to kill harder. So you talked about how Bitcoin Core, by design right now, not as per the white paper, but as right now, and the devs seem to openly state a desire to have high fees. Do you think that it's truly to replace the miner subsidy in like 130 years, or is it something else?
Yeah, good question, but I don't have a good answer. I think it's just economic ignorance and lack of business sense. Like, as a businessman, if you view Bitcoin as the product that you want to get the entire world to use as money, you have to make it as fast and cheap and reliable and convenient as you possibly can, so that people are incentivized to switch from PayPal, switch from Visa, switch from Bank of America to using Bitcoin. And if you make the Bitcoin user experience not as good as PayPal, not as good as Visa, not as good as Bank of America, people aren't going to switch. And in fact, not only are people not going to switch, they're going to switch away from Bitcoin if the user experience becomes bad after it used to be good. So like, I remember when almost all Bitcoin transactions, they weren't just cheap, they were completely free, as in not a single Satoshi at all was paid for the fee. And the way that worked is if your coins hadn't moved for a certain number of blocks, your transaction was free. And if you had moved your coins recently, then you had to pay a small fee. And that seemed to make a lot of sense. It prevented people from spamming the network. And it was great for accounting purposes too. You didn't have to worry in your accounting software about keeping track of how many Satoshis were spent on this fee or that fee. And so anyhow, to answer your question, like, I saw, who was it? It was one of the Bitcoin Core developers. And it's a German last name, but it's slipping my mind at the moment. And he was talking about how if we just increase the block size, it will allow businesses to relax. And he said that as if it was a bad thing. Whereas from my point of view is we want every single business that comes to Bitcoin to be able to relax and use Bitcoin for forever and not have to change anything, because once a business sets up a process, they don't want to change it again. That's why you see businesses that are still using 10-year-old computers, because they set it up, they got it working, don't change it, just keep using it. And so this guy was literally talking about how if we were to increase the block size, that would allow businesses to relax. And so we need to constrain the block size so that businesses have to go and do a bunch of extra work to adopt to this, future coming, block size, fee market that's going to come to existence. And for me as a business owner, for a decade before I got involved in Bitcoin, I just thought, no, your customers are going to leave if you make them do extra work. You hold their hand and you do absolutely everything you possibly can for them to make it as easy as you possibly can for them to buy whatever it is you're selling, whether it's your computer memory or hey, here's why you should use Bitcoin instead of Visa or PayPal because it's more useful for you in your life. And once you figured it out, boom, you don't have to change anything. You can use it for the next 30 years and not have to worry about anything. But they had the exact opposite attitude.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think that the whole idea that the fee needs to be high to replace the subsidy is false for a couple of reasons, but one being first of all, it's like more than 100 years. I think it's 130 years before the miner reward stops. That's a long freaking time. And the way that Bitcoin was moving price-wise, it was exponentially increasing with every bull run. It was rising. And the fees themselves would have paid the miners if you don't stop the block size and stop the economic activity. But when you have a stop to the economic activity, then yeah, you're going to have a problem because suddenly you don't have enough fees coming into the system and you have this mess. And that's what I see Bitcoin being right now. But I think it's a total fake basis for that argument.
It's clearly fake. And they caused a problem today in order to prevent something that might possibly somehow maybe be a problem 100 years from now. And in fact, they caused such a great big problem today that Bitcoin.com literally had to stop using Bitcoin and switch to something else, right? Like if that's not a warning sign, I don't know what is. So.
Right. And all the loss of merchants, we lost so much momentum. And actually, that was probably by design. If you go back to your whole CIA thing, and I mean, you could attribute it to ignorance or you could attribute it to maliciousness. And I think my attributing it to ignorance, I mean, they're not stupid guys. Like they're smart, intelligent people, unless they're just economically illiterate completely.
Well, I think there probably was, a deep state attempt to subvert peer-to-peer cash for the world because that would just strip away the government's power to do everything. But then, lucky for them, they found, a million useful idiots out there in the world.
Yeah.
It saw the IRS came out with a ruling in like 2013 or 14 saying Bitcoin is not money, Bitcoin is property. And so now you have to report capital gains tax on every single last little thing. If it had been money and had been ruled to be money, you could use it as money and you wouldn't have to worry about all this capital gains tax stuff. And like
I wouldn't have to move to Puerto Rico.
Roadblock. Yeah, why you moved to Puerto? You wouldn't have had to move to Puerto Rico. And yet all these other people on the internet are like, yeah, we agree with the IRS. Like Bitcoin should be property, not money. Like, do you think the IRS has the best interest for the adoption of Bitcoin at heart? No, they wanted to do everything they possibly could to stop it. Yet all these people like didn't think for themselves, or they had, too much government schooling where they just, couldn't see the light here. Bitcoin, it's right there in the very title. It's supposed to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. That means money used for payments to buy and sell things. So, and the IRS came out and said, don't you dare use it to buy or sell things. And then all these, other people on the internet said, yeah, we agree with that. And then Blockstream raised their $100+ million from the traditional financial giants who made sure that Bitcoin was no longer able to be used as money to buy and sell things on the internet. So,
absolutely. And if Bitcoin BTC does not change anything, meaning it keeps its block size the same, it's got its meager SegWit increase and Lightning Network that I don't think will ever be used in any massive scale because of flaws. Do you think that with those things remaining, Bitcoin BTC can remain the number one position on CoinMarketCap in 5 to 10 years?
It seems really, really unlikely to me. There's so many other chains that give such a much better experience. Like in the last week or two, the 4 coins that I've made transactions on chain for, the Bitcoin BTC. In fact, I had a transaction stuck the other day again, and I had to pay $30 in Bitcoin Cash to the BTC.com mining pool to include my Bitcoin transaction in one of their blocks because it had been stuck for like 6 hours. And it was a pretty big transaction. So I paid $30 in Bitcoin Cash to this Bitcoin mining pool to include the BTC transaction in one of their next blocks. And so if you have a Bitcoin transaction stuck, you can pay with Bitcoin Cash. And if that's not another warning sign, I don't know what is, that people are paying miners in Bitcoin Cash to guarantee that they'll include your Bitcoin transaction in one of their next blocks, like another disaster. Anyhow, the other coins I also made transactions in Bitcoin Cash, fast, cheap, and reliable, fantastic. Ethereum, pretty darn cheap, super fast, fantastic. And then I made a Ripple transaction recently as well. Super fast, super cheap again. Although I hear from people that are running Ripple full nodes or Ethereum full nodes, that's a lot of work, and they're a bit more resource intensive, which is fine, because for the end user there that's making the Ethereum or Ripple transaction, like, man, I was impressed with how fast it is. And like, I love the Bitcoin.com wallet. Like, we have a fantastic team working on it. I was testing out the Trust wallet from Binance the other day. That's a slick wallet, and it supports quite a few different cryptocurrencies in there. And I made the Ethereum and the Ripple transactions from that Trust wallet. And like, wow, that was a good experience, and puts Bitcoin to shame. Like, you can, when you compare a Bitcoin transaction with a Ripple or an Ethereum transaction, or just about any other coin at this point, like,
yeah,
Bitcoin has the name recognition and the brand awareness, and it's $10,000 a coin, so people get excited about it because of those things. But anybody that makes a payment with it, like, the best thing that could possibly happen for Bitcoin Cash is for people to make a Bitcoin transaction, then make a Bitcoin Cash transaction, and then they will instantly become Bitcoin Cash fans.
Yeah, side by side, I've done this, and it's such a good feeling when you make that Bitcoin Cash transaction and you see it instantly confirm on the other end, zero confirmation, but the merchant receives it. It's like, you're not left wondering, did they even get it? Where is it?
Is it stuck in the mempool for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah,
I paid a $45 fee instead of a $50 fee?
Right. And you just said you paid $30 ironically, out of your Bitcoin Cash holdings to unstick a Bitcoin transaction. Was that recently?
Yeah, this was like maybe 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago.
1 week ago. Okay.
I paid the Bitcoin fee that the wallet calculated to pay was like 30 cents or something like that. And then it was at an inopportune time where apparently a bunch more transactions came onto the network and outbid my transaction. And so then it wound up being stuck for the rest of the day, until finally I thought, oh man, because the person that I was sending to, I knew it wasn't a small amount of money. And the person that I was sending it to was like, I want them to have a good experience, right? Like, they need to get their money. So then I went and sped things up by paying in Bitcoin Cash to this mining pool to include my Bitcoin transaction. I think they accept credit cards too. You can pay with a credit card to include your Bitcoin transaction. Another warning sign for Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's like not even useful for its intended purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if right now it cost you $30 to unstick a transaction on the Bitcoin network, and we are at I wouldn't say at the bottom, but we're at the relative low of the price cycle. And I predict that the next bull run peak will be in about a year from now. Imagine if it's $30 a transaction now. That's why I'm saying, like, I could see it being over 200.
Well, they charged me a big markup in Bitcoin Cash. So like maybe the actual fee that it should have been paid for that thing was like $5 or something at that time.
Oh, I see.
For this mining pool, they charged extra for their service, but like,
fair enough.
It was worth it to me. And there it was. But like, it just made me want. And to be fair, that Bitcoin was going to one of these trading desks to basically leverage it into more Bitcoin Cash in the future. So I don't feel so bad for having transactions.
Went to a good purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, good. On to a new topic here. What is the status of the miner donation fund for developers? Is it going to be contentious at all in May? And what do you think Omri's stance is now, given the fairly widespread community opposition to this fund?
I don't know what Omri's stance is. I'm happy to let Omri speak for Omri.
Sure.
My stance on it is that, like, we've had, if you count Bitcoin back to the Genesis block there in 2009, which, like, I'm sorry, if you count Bitcoin Cash back, which you can or can't, like, there used to be one single version of Bitcoin. Now I'd argue that there's like three main versions of Bitcoin there, or two and a half. None of them have ever had this infrastructure funding plan, and they've become, the three of the top 5 cryptocurrencies in the world, or 3 of the top 6 or something like that. That's a pretty darn good result. So I'd be very, very, very hesitant to change anything with a good result. There was some talk about doing it previously. It wasn't possible to get community consensus on that. So it wasn't even close to community consensus. Initially, I thought it was a pretty neat idea, actually. But if there's not consensus on it, it sure isn't worth shattering the network. So my own stance is that I'm against it. And the document that came out that had my name and Bitcoin.com's name on it, it wasn't intentional malice, but there was just a lack of communication. Like, I never signed that, never gave permission for that to come out. So Bitcoin.com and myself was never a supporter of this infrastructure funding program plan, despite a bunch of these, Bitcoin core maximalists calling it, Roger Ver supports the B tax and this and that. There's lots of people love to troll on the internet, and they don't let the facts get in their way.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen tons of trolling. I actually don't know how you deal with all of it, because there's so much thrown your way. And I admire your just steadfast persistence against all odds, all the opposition, and just continuing to get out that same message of cheap, fast transactions.
The truth is more important than trolling on social media. So.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just have to ignore it. So I saw a post, someone said, Bitcoin Cash wallet idea, would it be possible to lock up your Bitcoin Cash and get dividends through mining? And you had replied here, let me put it on the screen so you can see. And it's in that yellow there. And you had said, we are working with partners, so soon you will be able to earn interest on your Bitcoin Cash. And I was curious to hear more about that, if you have anything you could share.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how much I can or should share at the moment. I'd forgotten about that until now, but we're absolutely working on that, and you'll be able to see that soon. In fact, I have another idea that can be done by anybody today. Let me pitch the idea for somebody to do it. The only reason I think nobody has done it is probably it's like an illegal security token or something like that, which is too bad. I don't think this should be illegal, but basically what you could do is you could collect Bitcoin Cash from people. For every single person that sends you one Bitcoin Cash, you give them one SLP token that represents that Bitcoin Cash. And you can call it like the BCH dividend token, right? And then you can offer to exchange at any point, they send you back the token, you'll give them back their one Bitcoin Cash. But what you can do is you can earn interest on Bitcoin Cash on a couple of different platforms there. So you can like lend it out for like margin lending. If you're not an American, you can like use Bitfinex or some other places and do that sort of thing. And then what you could do is you could take that interest that's earned on the Bitcoin Cash and then pay that out in dividends to all the token holders that hold the token there. And that can all work on chain. They don't have to give their names. It works anywhere in the world. You just have the counterparty risk of whoever's the token holder and the custodian of all the Bitcoin Cash, plus the counterparty risk of the exchange or wherever you're earning the interest from those Bitcoin Cash, but all totally doable today with that SLP dividend calculator tool that we've released on Bitcoin.com. That's not the system that we're building into the wallet, but that's one that anybody could do. Like if you're a known, member of the community and you say, hey, if you want to entrust your Bitcoin Cash with me, here's where I'm going to deposit them. Like for example, like there's lots of services that Americans are not allowed to use. Well, if somebody wants to help Americans, escape the long arms of the, government in America trying to tell people what they can or can't do with their own money, issue the token, take their Bitcoin Cash, deposit it in your own name as a non-American and whatever the service is, collect the interest and pay out the interest to all the token holders using the SLP dividend payment tool. You can do that right now today. All the tools exist. Nobody's stopping you from doing that other than take some initiative and get it done.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a feature that Bitcoin does not have the ability to do, right?
Couldn't even come close to doing it on Bitcoin. The fees would be too high. They intentionally killed their token ecosystem. It's not doable on Bitcoin.
Wow. And it may be too premature to ask this, but any idea what the percentage, the APR could be on return on something like that?
It'll fluctuate with the market, but the introductory rate for the first deposit will probably be somewhere, 6, 7, 8, 9%. And then if you deposit a lot more, we're probably looking at 2 or 3%.
Okay.
Between 1 and 3%, somewhere in there.
Not bad. That's competitive. Some of the other blockchains out there, EOS right now, I think you can get between 2 and 3% return. TEZOS, I think, has 6 or 7%. I don't know much about that. So hopefully it would be competitive with those models.
Yeah, well, it depends. So TEZOS, I think the dividend there or whatever is paid through inflation. Dash has it paid through inflation. And so this won't be paid through inflation on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. So it's one thing. Oh, you're all earning 7% interest on your Tezos holdings, but never mind the fact that we're inflating the blockchain by that. So it's just
right. So subtract that.
You're treading water. You're holding even. Yeah.
Yeah. You can just break above even. So if you can get 2 or 3%, it's not inflation. Then that's a lot.
That's a bigger deal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Any new developments coming for Bitcoin Cash that you're excited to see in the future?
I wish we could say that we're launching today, but it's still going to be into the future. But I am so excited for Cash Fusion. I don't think people understand or appreciate how big of a deal Cash Fusion is. Cash Fusion gives Bitcoin Cash super, super strong anonymity. In fact, if you do the math for it, the way to figure out which Bitcoin Cash belongs to you in a Cash Fusion transaction, there's more possibilities in the ways you shuffled up your Bitcoin Cash with everybody else's than there are atoms in the entire universe, right? So think about how many stars and planets and galaxies there are out there, and how many atoms there are there. There's more. The number is bigger in the number of possible ways you shuffled up your Bitcoin Cash than there are atoms in the entire universe.
Wow.
That's
I didn't know that.
Really, really strong privacy. And
That's
so I'm super eager to build that right into the Bitcoin.com wallet and then give people, the ability to use Bitcoin Cash fast, cheap, reliably and privately in a way in which nobody can stop you or freeze your funds or control your money or your life in any way. And that's bringing more economic freedom to the whole world, a lot more than some digital beanie baby that you should buy it now because other people are going to buy it later, and you can sell it back for fiat for more later. Like you've missed the whole point of cryptocurrency. The whole cryptocurrency isn't to sell it for more fiat later. The goal is to make it the money for the entire world, so you never have to sell it back to fiat ever, and fiat becomes worthless.
Right. Escape the system. Don't go back into it. That's very cool. The cash shuffle statistics you share there remind me of like the probability of when you're generating a private key of there being some kind of duplicate or a collision. I mean, it's statistically almost impossible.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's so many different potential addresses, and there's so many potential ways you could shuffle up all those coins. And you can get Cash Fusion right now today for your desktop. If you go to Cash Fusion, I think it's .com or .org. I forget which one it is.
Okay.
But I'm so excited to bring it to your mobile Bitcoin.com wallet as well. And then boom, overnight, all the Bitcoin.com wallet users will have Cash Fusion built right into their wallet. So that's one of the things I'm the most excited about as well for Bitcoin Cash, because then it'll be the by far most widely used cryptocurrency with strong privacy, right? Because what's the most widely used privacy cryptocurrency out there? It's either Dash or Monero. But like, how much traction does it have? Not much. Can you pay with it at BitPay? No. Can you pay with it at Go Crypto? No. Are there, how many local places are there near you that accept it? None, right? Like, and I like Monero. I've been a Monero holder since it was like around, I think, less than $1. And Monero's cool, but the network effect is incredibly important too. And Bitcoin Cash's network effect dwarfs Monero. It dwarfs Dash. It dwarfs just about everything except for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So.
Wow, that's very, very cool. That's one feature that obviously Bitcoin lacks. I remember as an early adopter, getting some coins, and I thought it was anonymous. And of course, we all came.
So attractive. We thought it was anonymous back then.
Yeah, we did, and we acted like, oh, no one knows this address, and it's a bunch of random characters. Well, actually, they can figure out a lot about you by entry and exit points and putting it together, the heuristics of it. And so this is awesome to hear, because this actually brings that original vision. Cash is supposed to be anonymous. It's supposed to be fungible. When you go on the street and you hand somebody $100 bill, it's supposed to be indistinguishable for every other $100 bill out there. And so that will accomplish that.
That's exactly right. And that's the goal. And in fact, just a couple of hours ago, I was demonstrating a Cash Fusion transaction for somebody. I showed it to them on the blockchain, and there were 111 inputs for this transaction, and I forget how many outputs. And so the total size of this transaction was 16 kilobytes. And so on the Bitcoin Cash network, this 16 kilobyte transaction with potentially up to 111 participants was 4 cents. Okay. Right. So you divide, 111 participants potentially by 4 cents. They're all paying a fraction of a tiny penny. And I looked at the fee market on Bitcoin today and calculated if that same transaction was on the Bitcoin network, it would cost like $216 today. 4 cents or $216. Like, you don't have to be the world's best, businessman to figure out which one of these is going to be more popular in the future here. People just have to find out about it. And I think you're seeing that. I don't know if you've poked around at Blockchain.Poker, but it's this really cool website. You haven't seen this? Let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
It supports the 3 main versions of Bitcoin over there, right? So BTC, BCH, and BSV. But if you go over there and you can play poker, you deposit your money instantly. You can play poker with people around the world. And there's, the tables for the 3 different flavors of Bitcoin there. 99% of the people are paying with and playing with Bitcoin Cash. And you can deposit anonymously, play your game. You can play cash games, you can play tournaments, you can do whatever you want. And then you can withdraw your money as soon as you're done playing. So one of the things that tipped me off on why Bitcoin was going to be popular was back in 2011 when the US government raided all these poker sites and stole all the money that the poker sites were holding for the players. So all the players lost all their money. But now with Blockchain.Poker, you can deposit your money, play your game, and then withdraw your money. So as long as the website owners aren't, raided while you're actively playing on the website, your money's fine. The money's back in your own Bitcoin.com wallet. You don't have to worry about anything. And I think that that's a really big deal. When you go over there, you can look, there's hundreds, sometimes 1,000 plus people are busy playing over there, and 99% of them are playing with Bitcoin Cash. And so I think that's a really strong sign for the future of Bitcoin. And if people want to play with Bitcoin, there's Bitcoin tables over there. In fact, they just had some charity event. They invited me to play in it, for crypto celebrities or whatever, right? So they had Bobby Lee and Charlie Lee, Brock Pierce, Peter McCormick, all these sorts of guys over there. And they invited me to play. And I said, well, where are you guys playing? And first they said, oh, we're playing on like Poker Stars. I said, what? You guys are having a cryptocurrency fundraiser for coronavirus for a poker tournament, and you're using a poker website that doesn't even accept cryptocurrency? Like, no, I'm absolutely not going to participate unless you play on a website that accepts cryptocurrencies for payment. And then I said, why don't you use Blockchain.Poker? Check it out. It's fantastic. There's no registration. You can play. And to their credit, that's what they used the next time. It was just, I think, last night. And then one of my other buddies, David Bond, sent me the screenshots. And he said, ha, 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 look at these guys. They're having their tournament. They're the only ones on the entire site using Bitcoin. And there's like this giant long list of all these other full table people playing with Bitcoin Cash. And I think that's kind of like where these Bitcoin maximalists are. They're in their own little social media bubble, and they keep telling themselves over and over, oh, Bitcoin is the best because it's $10,000, and because all my buddies say it's $10,000, it's the best because they like it because it's $10,000. Whereas anybody that tries to use it for poker, like most of the people over on Blockchain.Poker, they're not cryptocurrency nerds. They're just people, I want to play poker on the internet. And Blockchain.Poker, they'll give you a tiny bit of the cryptocurrency to get you started. And so I think it's actually one of the best faucets and on-ramps for people that have never used crypto in their life to start using it, because people love poker all over the world. And even if you don't care about cryptocurrency at all, you want to play poker online, which cryptocurrency is the easiest one to do it on the website? They built the website exactly the same for all three, but Bitcoin Cash is the easiest one to use because it's the easiest to buy or sell. It's the most liquid out there compared to that other big block version of Bitcoin. And it has low fees compared to BTC, right? So like, everybody's using Bitcoin
and statistically,
Cash because it works.
Yeah, and statistically, you're saying that over 90% of the transactions are Bitcoin Cash transactions on this poker site.
They have stats actually, and if you want to do another screen share, we can pull it up, and they have public stats where you can see over the last couple of months the Bitcoin Cash version just dwarfed everything else. So Blockchain.Poker is the website.
Oh, look at that! I got 100 Satoshis.
100 Satoshis for free. So
let's do it.
Yeah. And now that menu bar on the right there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can play a game already if you want, but if you look at statistics right there, the fourth one from the bottom. Yep. And so here's cash game hands played. So here, green is Bitcoin Cash, the dark orange is BTC, and then the light orange is BSC.
Yeah, it's like hands down, Bitcoin Cash is by far the number one use.
And so you can see the other things for cash game hands played, and then tournament games, the hands played. You can see it's similar looking numbers, right? And then the blue line is everything combined, right?
Yeah, barely higher.
Close, right? And then if you go in, if you close out of that and hit the lobby button in the upper left, so you can see here's all the cash games. Anybody can set up a game. Look at all these. Scroll down. Look how far down you have to scroll before you see. There's a couple of BTC.
Oh yeah, a little bit of orange.
Nobody playing, right?
And a sea of green.
Yeah, and then if you click on tournaments as well, it's the same thing with all these tournaments.
Wow.
Right, sea of green for Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, that's very telling. I mean, it's utility, and value is partly derived from utility. So Bitcoin Cash already shows proof on this poker site that its utility is vastly superior to Bitcoin.
There it is. You took the words right out of my mouth. So
that's awesome. You know, you made me kind of think about something here a little differently. Where we're talking about, you know, I was making an analogy that if you hand a $100 bill to someone, you know, if it's cash, it should be fungible. It shouldn't be tied to anything. And as our early experiences in cryptocurrency, we thought that it was that way, but it really wasn't. And so now my analogy is that when you transfer with something like Bitcoin, or I mean, even Bitcoin Cash, to be fair, without the cash shuffle, but when cash shuffle comes, it's going to change the game.
Cash shuffle is here. You can get it today, to be fair, for desktop.
Okay, so even today, use cash shuffle, and then you've got a changed game. And the analogy is that when you're transacting outside of that encrypted, you know, shuffled funds, you're using, it's like marked crypto, marked Bitcoins. Your Bitcoins have a history, and you're not anonymous. They're not totally fungible. You don't know where that Bitcoin came from before, and that identity travels with that currency. So there's a bit of a mark going along, and that's such a ridiculous thing for an internet currency. So I'm really excited about that. Cash shuffle.
That makes you and me both. And again, like, this isn't future stuff we're talking about. You can get it today for desktop. You can head on over to Cash Fusion .com, I think. Let me make sure it's not .org though.
Yeah, let's get that right so someone doesn't go to a scam site.
Yeah, we don't want people to go to the.
They'll blame me for sending them to a scam.
Sorry about that. .org.
.org?
Yeah, maybe both work. Let me check the .com version.
Okay, let's verify.
Nope, .org.
.org.
So cashfusion.org.
Okay, I'm sure some scammer out there is going to register the .com and try to siphon people's money.
Yeah, there's too much of that going on the internet. Cashfusion.org.
Yeah, .org, people. .org. Okay, my last question for you, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but in terms of percentages, what does your crypto portfolio look like? I have never heard you talk about this.
Yeah, so I guess do you want percentages in US dollar terms, or do you want percentages in like obviously like XRP, the price is like 20 cents each. I have a lot more of those than I have of Bitcoin that are $10,000 each.
Let's do it US dollars just so it's kind of balanced out.
Yeah, and so I should probably have a better spreadsheet tracking that because the US dollar balances change every day. But to be honest, it's pretty balanced between Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ripple, Ethereum, and then I have a nice stash of some lesser coins like the Dashes and Moneros and Zcash and Zcoin, and one that nobody's ever heard of, but I took a nice little position in that I think is a cool one, but the network effect is important, and it doesn't have a big network effect yet, is Zano, Z-A-N-O. It's another crypto note-based like privacy coin that I think is has the potential to be pretty cool, but it needs an ecosystem around it yet. So there's a fun one. So
that's cool. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, well, I think it's number 500 on coinmarketcap.com.
Which is a pro and a con. It could have a lot of upside potential. Could be a flop.
Well, I can tell you you can make it have a whole bunch of upside potential, but you have to get out there and build the infrastructure to make it usable for people. You have to get the BitPays to integrate it, the Go Cryptos to integrate it. You need to get the darknet market to integrate it. You need to build poker websites for people to use it. You have to give people a reason to actually want to hold it other than, if I hold it and then convince everybody else to hold it, I can sell it to those other people that decide to hold it later for more money than I buy it today. And sadly, that's become the business model for Bitcoin. That's never been my business model. My business model has been make this as useful as we possibly can for as many people around the world. And if they're able to use it for useful things, they're going to want to be able to hold it as well so that they can use it later.
Yeah, absolutely. So are there any new Bitcoin.com wallet features you'd like to share?
Yeah, actually. So we have this nice new search function or explore function that's bottom middle button. And I'm opening it up right here. And so we have all sorts of fun things. So you can swap Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash right there from within your wallet. No KYC required. So if you have somebody that says, I really want to pay in Bitcoin, you can take their Bitcoin and then swap it right into Bitcoin Cash in your wallet. We have a merchant map where you can see all these locations around you that accept Bitcoin Cash. If you want to buy, here's another fun tip. If you want to buy Bitcoin Cash with your credit card and not pay any fee whatsoever, what you do is you take the Bitcoin Cash Register app, which we have tutorial videos on how to use that. Go to your local, sushi shop or bar or whoever you're friends with the owner. You give him your credit card. You set up the Bitcoin Cash Register app on his phone or his tablet at his business. And you tell him anytime anybody comes here and wants to pay with Bitcoin Cash, you just plug in the price with this app and then let them pay to that. And then you just bill my credit card, Billy, because I've known you for, I come in here every week for my sushi every Thursday. And so I'm going to leave my credit card with you. And every time someone comes and pays with Bitcoin Cash, accept it with the app and then bill my credit card. You still get paid just like normal, but I get the Bitcoin Cash sent right to my wallet. It bills my credit card. I don't have to pay any markup whatsoever. I get my, credit card loyalty reward points, depending on the type of business. Maybe I have a tax write-off for all the credit card charges that come in my credit card. And it's a fantastic way to get Bitcoin Cash with no markup. Plus, now you have another shop in your town that accepts Bitcoin Cash that spreads adoption. You can add them to the merchant map so other people can find out about it. It's just a win-win-win situation all the way around. Another thing, actually, we just launched a couple of days ago. You can now buy up to $10,000 a day worth of Bitcoin inside the Bitcoin.com wallet. So you can buy, a whole Bitcoin, or what is that, about 40 Bitcoin Cash in a single day, right there from within inside your Bitcoin.com wallet. So those are pretty decent limits there. $10,000 a day of crypto you can buy inside the Bitcoin.com wallet. And we have links. You can buy your gift cards. You can buy airplane tickets. You can book hotels. You can do loans, apparently. There, we have links to that. There's just all sorts of stuff. So if you hadn't hit the explore button in the bottom middle of the Bitcoin.com wallet, you can see all the cool stuff that we have over there and more new stuff coming all the time. And check out, our gaming platform too at cashgames.bitcoin.com. You can play slot machines, poker, blackjack, all this fun stuff. If you win, you can withdraw your money instantly and be off on your merry way. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to give your name. We don't ask for your tax ID number. We just had some guy won the other week. What would that have been? It would have been like $300,000 or something you won on the website.
Wow.
Boom. We don't know who he is. Good for him. And if you win, fantastic. If the house wins, that means we're just going to take the money that we won and we're going to use that to build more tools to promote more economic freedom for the world. So it's a win-win situation no matter what. If you win, great. If the house wins, you still win because you support our message and we're building more economic tools to empower people all over the world. So really, and you can get paid money by telling your friends about the platform too. We have an affiliate system too with banner ads, so you can post that on your blog or website or Facebook, and we give you 25% of any of the money that's earned from the people you refer to our website. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. Cashgames.bitcoin.com. Thanks for letting me know, by the way.
You're welcome. That's amazing how much stuff that Bitcoin.com is offering. Like the features, it blows my mind how many features you guys offer.
I'm glad it blows your mind. I guess one more, local.bitcoin.com. You can literally buy or sell Bitcoin Cash in any country for any amount with anybody with no KYC required. You're trading directly with some other person. And now we added all sorts of physical items. You can buy and sell, your used computer parts or, new sneakers, or people are selling selling gold and silver on there. They're selling all sorts of cars, houses even. So go and check out local.bitcoin.com. And then we've just started adding Steam inventory. So if you want to sell your digital video game items, people are doing that too. So we're getting more and more traction all over the world at local.bitcoin.com. So you can sell video game items, physical items, and or just Bitcoin Cash for any payment method. Bank wire, a duffel bag of cash at midnight at the local 7-Eleven street corner, like wire transfer, even PayPal or Venmo. If you're the one buying Bitcoin Cash, you have zero possibility of being cheated. If you're selling Bitcoin Cash, make sure somebody pays you in a payment method that's not reversible. If you're selling Bitcoin Cash for PayPal, be really, really careful. If you're selling Bitcoin Cash for a duffel bag of cash at midnight, be really, really careful for other reasons.
Sure.
But it's any payment method. And China's been the biggest market though, because they have WeChat and Alipay, which aren't reversible. So they, lots of days they're doing over $100,000 a day just in China, buying and selling Bitcoin Cash on local.bitcoin.com. And again, we can pay you for telling your friends about that. We have an affiliate system there as well, where we will pay you for telling people to go and trade on local.bitcoin.com. So it's just a fantastic platform to spread more economic freedom to the world and earn money for yourself at the same time. So please, guys, take a look at that and help us out with that.
All right. Bitcoin.com, the king of everything Bitcoin Cash. Very cool.
Yeah.
So we've been going for a little over an hour here. I think it's about a good place to wrap it up. Any final words for my viewers?
Yeah, if you're somebody that's, come to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency more recently, and you've just seen, some of the name calling or attacks on Bitcoin Cash, think for yourself, give it a try, right? Head on over to Blockchain.Poker. They'll give you a little bit of Bitcoin Cash for free. I think we have a faucet at Bitcoin.com, but I think Blockchain.Poker's faucet's a better one because then they give you a little bit for free and then you can instantly play poker with the Bitcoin Cash that they give you over there. So really go and give that a try. And then think for yourself, right? Use these different cryptocurrencies and decide for yourself. Don't listen to what a bunch of people on Twitter or on, even on YouTube are saying. You can listen, but evaluate it and think for yourself. Don't just believe it because, it was on the internet. It must be true.
Yeah. If there's something we're seeing more than ever, it's fake information on the internet. So you take it in and you evaluate it for yourself and you fact check it and you cross-reference it. And I think that's really good advice.
And we didn't even get to talk today about the YouTube censorship that's going on. But to touch on that real briefly, we see a lot of these Bitcoin maximalist types complaining about the censorship that's going on YouTube. And they're right. They should complain about that. And I'll gladly complain with them. But where were these guys complaining about the censorship that's still going on to this very day on the busiest discussion platforms for cryptocurrencies? So our Bitcoin, the censorship started overnight when the big blockers were the majority. And one of the highest I think the highest post ever upvoted on our Bitcoin was a post calling for an end to the censorship and replacement of the
I remember that.
That would it was the most upvoted post ever on our Bitcoin. And then they deleted it and censored that post too.
How ironic.
So, there you go.
Hypocrites. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Roger. It's been a pleasure having you on this channel. It's been a pleasure meeting you for the first time in virtual land. And I hope you have a great time on your little island there, and I'll have a great time on my island until our travel is freed up.
Yep. And I hope to meet you in person someday. Thank you so much for the opportunity today, Colin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting you as well. Have a great day. You wouldn't believe what I just went through. I couldn't get adequate Wi-Fi up on the second floor of my house. And in Puerto Rico, we have solid concrete walls. And so I had to literally bring the router all the way up the stairs and run a 100-foot cord. Anyways, I'm connected now.
I'm sympathetic to the issues with the concrete walls. We have those down here. I think all the Caribbean have those earthquake concrete walls. Not earthquake, hurricane-proof concrete walls.
Yeah, which have many pluses. They're soundproof and very safe.
Complain if I turn my radio up loud. Yeah,
exactly. I can still hear the dogs barking through the windows, but that's just comes with the territory, I think.
Yeah, awesome. I don't have a green screen though, so maybe I need to order one of those first.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, pardon the green screen. There's going to be some sweet background. I don't know what yet, but there'll be something very cool. If you want me to try to virtually put something behind you, I can do that.
Yeah, I think that's harder to do if I don't have a green screen, right?
It is. It is. If you have a solid color, that will work, but I think we'll be fine.